So I was watching with Gina and I. Welcome to Healthy Frontiers. My name is Dr. Bizzoni, and this show is dedicated to the education of our viewers. The special topic tonight is education through music, and my special guest is Damkohler. Kathy is the Executive Director of Education Through Music. This group has been, and this charitable organization has been around for over 16 years. And I'd like to welcome Kathy to the show.
Well, thank you
Kathy,
very much. I'm
great
delighted
to
be here. It's great.
Good.
It really is terrific.
Kathy, tell me a little bit about your background in education and in music. I know you have a great background in both, so give me...
Well, I guess my my largest success is as an educator. I have taught every grade from kindergarten through 8th grade, and I had the opportunity to be a principal in Mount Vernon for several years. It was a great opportunity. I think one of the reasons that I took the position was because it was a school at risk. The school was slated for closure.
Right.
And I had the opportunity to work with two wonderful gentlemen by the name of Ed Schroeder and Eldon Mayer, who just started a program called Education Through Music.
Okay.
They gave it to me, and they asked me to pilot it in the school. And I left education and became the Executive Director of Education Through Music.
Gotcha. Okay, so that was the start of this whole thing.
That was the start of the...
So you've been there since the inception.
I have. I believe that I've been the first principal and now the first Executive Director of the organization.
So your experience is certainly there. Tell me about Education Through Music, Kathy. Please, tell me the whole story.
Education Through Music really was developed to bring music education to children as a comprehensive and sequential subject, as a core subject to the academic curriculum. And it was developed to help children to be better learners, to help not only with their academic achievement, but with their general development.
Right, okay. And you said that it started with your idea, or Ed's idea, and these people's idea about educating kids through music, and music's so important. Because it branches out into other areas in learning.
It does.
So
we have found over the years that, and it really started. The school that I was working with, the children were performing relatively low.
Right.
And it is my experience of most of the schools that I work with. We struggle with our children in reading and in math and science and social studies, as well as their general development.
Right.
And children have to be excited about coming to school if they're going to learn. I mean, there's a lot of things that happen. There's so many variables within the school day that help children to learn. But music does motivate them, and we found out that when children are learning music as a subject, there are skills that transfer from that subject into helping them to be better readers. You learn how to compare and contrast. You learn how to interpret data. You learn how to sequence, to pattern in the context of a music room, and that translates into better learning. And for many, many years, I've looked at what, I guess in the 70s, music was taken out of the schools.
Right.
And it's something that I have not experienced, I'm sure you have not experienced, because we had music in our schools. We had it as a main subject. And people are very surprised today when they find out our children are not having music education in many of our schools, especially the schools in the inner city. It's taken out, not because they don't love music, but principals don't value it because they probably have not had it in their lives. Many of the teachers don't value it because it wasn't in their lives. The only thing we know about music is by what we click on. We don't even turn it on now. We just do that little click with our iPods. It's a very, very different culture.
Sure.
So it was really hard to just put music in a school when you don't value it. And a lot of the organizations who were losing their constituents, losing their audiences, came together and really put their hearts in their head and tried to develop music education programs for the schools. And they became outreach programs, assembly programs, short-term programs. And I struggled with that, Lois. I struggled with a select few of children having music education. I struggled with the fact that the school would have one concert. I would struggle with the fact that an organization would come in and provide music education for just a select group of children for 6 weeks. It's not Star Search. It's an It isn't. It's an opportunity for children to be great readers, great mathematicians, and lifelong learners. And we can only do that if music is part of a balanced curriculum. I know your show was about health, and it's so important to us because we think about the health. Everything is we think of things in moderation. You know, how much do we give our children in terms of sports? What right food do we eat?
Right.
What right? And even with learning, parents should have a real concern of a balance in the education.
Right.
Reading, writing, science, math, and arts.
Yes.
The arts is a valid component.
It's always the first one cut.
It is the first one cut.
You
It
know?
helps to build self-esteem.
Yeah.
It helps the sensory and cognitive perceptions of children. It helps with motor skills. You have an opportunity to listen, clap, move during the environment of the
Right.
school day. How wonderful, how that translates into better learners. We have seen it. Several years ago, we received a grant from the U.S. Department of Education
Okay.
to do some research evaluation of the validity of our program.
Right.
And what we have found is that schools that have both comprehensive and sequential music education,
Right.
that is music that is taught as a discipline, as a core subject once a week,
Not short term.
not short term, and is assessed. Because at the end of the day, you want to ensure that the children are actually learning music.
Sure.
I mean, at the end of the day, you want to ensure that they're reading. After you spend so much money and time on teaching children to read,
Right.
we do assess our children. We do put an evaluation at the end. And once we have learned is that children that had in schools, and now we're in 15 schools
Right.
throughout the New York City area.
Oh, that's great. So it's expanded from your first school.
We have. We've gone
15.
from 1 into 15.
Right.
In September, we'll be in 17.
Right.
But what we have learned through that research-based evaluation is that children who have music education as part of their curriculum are performing higher in math and in reading.
That's
Which
so
is-
important.
It is important.
And there are tests, aren't there some, you were just talking to me before, there were some tests that have been validating this whole point now.
That's
Is
right.
that
We have been looking very carefully at standardized test results in schools
Right.
that have the education through music program versus schools that are similar.
Right.
Similar in terms of the demographics, similar in terms of their needs, free and reduced lunch, similar in terms of their special need populations.
Right.
So schools who do not have any music versus schools that do. And I know there are many variable changes and many variables that add to good teaching quality, good practices, great resources. But at the end of the day, I truly believe that the arts support that learning environment. We're not the reason for it, but
Right.
we are absolutely a tremendous support to that.
Okay, and just, that's great, Kat. We want to just talk a little bit about nonprofit. Is it a profit organization,
Yeah,
nonprofit? Tell
We
me,
are.
what is
We're a
that?
not-for-profit organization.
Okay.
We believe in sustainable change.
Okay.
I think Education Through Music would love to put ourselves out of business someday.
Oh, that's great.
We'd love to see schools that embrace music education as a core subject.
Right.
We'd love to see teachers bringing music into the classroom. I certainly understand that classroom teachers cannot be the freelance equivalent of professional artists.
Right.
The music teachers would cringe if they had to give their curriculum over to a classroom teacher
course.
who's never had a music teacher, and it wouldn't be fair to the classroom teacher.
Right.
They certainly have a lot on their plates.
Right.
I have been a classroom teacher, and someone who brings me a packet and says, "Oh, we're going to be teaching music, and we're going to enrich your lessons through music," 90% of the time it will go into G,
Right.
garbage.
That's right.
But I do believe that with professional development and an understanding of how music can enrich the curriculum, the classroom teacher absolutely can embrace music and use it to enrich a lesson. You could bring in music of the jazz period and the resurgence of New York when you're talking about World War I and World War II.
great.
You can bring in the music of Mahalia Jackson when you're talking about the Civil War. What a wonderful opportunity for the children not only to study that period, but to
Right.
see it alive through the music of that time.
Fabulous.
It's another way for children to learn. But there's a deeper way. I think it's the real deep cognitive transferable skills that teachers talk about that really make how to pattern, how to sequence, how to interpret data. How do you use that to support learning?
Right.
And at Education Through Music, we do two things. We build a partnership with the principal.
Okay, so that's how you start.
We
Okay.
do.
You go to the principal first.
Always the principal first.
Okay.
Principal's leadership of the school.
Right.
The principal really is the one to call the shots.
Right.
I think the principal guides, directs good practices within the school.
Yep.
So the principal and I sit down and we develop a strategic plan where every single child will have music education. Now, even in some of our very at-risk schools, there is the presence of a music teacher. There's one music teacher for 1,000 children. No way that every child could be served.
Too much.
I mean, so they're very creative in terms of their scheduling. You will find that there are children who get served once a week, and some classes get served once a month.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But we sit down, and within the context of that strategic plan, we develop a way where every child's going to have music education once a week, as I've said.
Right.
And then we work with that existing music teacher and supplement it with additional staff. Now, many of our teachers eventually do become certified, but initially they are wonderful, wonderful artists, both passionate and knowledgeable about how wonderful to put these people in front of our children. People who have been to the finest conservatories.
Right.
Can you imagine teachers from MIT coming and teaching our children math?
Oh, really?
I mean, it's a
Tremendous.
great opportunity.
Yeah.
So that's what this is. They are conservatory-trained teachers. They are absolutely amazing. They have specialties in varieties of instruments, voice. Many of them are jazz performers.
Yes.
And we bring them into boot camp. We bring them into intensive pedagogical training. It's kind of like teacher prep.
Yes.
How to be effective in the classroom, how to be a good manager, extensive classroom management training. Children have to be present, have to have structure in the classroom. We give them intense curriculum designs. We support them in lesson planning, and we mentor them weekly and monthly in the beginning.
Learned musicians. They're
That's
not necessarily a teacher.
Exactly,
So,
and traditionally, musicians know only from the conservatories being in one little practice room and practicing all by themselves.
For sure.
So now we throw them kind of into baptism by fire,
Right.
right into that classroom
There you
where
go.
there are 30 children kind of looking at them.
Right.
And it's a wonderful opportunity for them to share their passion with music. And then by the skills that education through music gives them, they become very effective teachers. And many have actually gone on to become teachers and be absorbed by the system, and therefore put us out of business.
So there you go.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
That's the
There you
goal.
go.
Put us out of business.
And some of the objectives of ETM. I mean, some of the main objectives, like quality music. You want to give these kids an opportunity not only to learn the instrument, but to be musicians too. Right?
Exactly. I mean,
So
there is. It's
how
always.
far does it go?
It is absolutely not Star Search, as I
Right.
know. But there are children who are both passionate and excited about playing an instrument or singing.
Yep.
And we have wonderful partnerships with the USDAN camp out in Huntington, Long Island.
What was the name, Ken?
The USDAN. It's USDAN. It's not an acronym. It's a family name.
Right.
They have a camp for the performing arts.
Okay.
And they give us scholarships each year to provide for children who are both interested and passionate to go to summer camp. It's an 8-week program, and it's a phenomenal
Because not only
environment.
go to learn the music, they get out of the city for 8 weeks.
Exactly.
I mean, so they're having a
It's
great
a great
experience
opportunity.
and great
And
opportunity.
we do a lot of, we work with other partnerships. We work with the Marilyn Horn Foundation. We work with 10 O'Clock Classics, which is an after-school program.
Right.
We do provide our children with outreach programs. I talked about short-term programs before, and I wanted to clarify. I think they have a place, and
Sure.
I think they're invaluable, and I think my colleagues in cultural organizations who are trying very hard to bring music to the children bring these short-term programs in. But I know and they know that they would be much more beneficial if children were having the study of music. It's kind of like bringing the child to the library. You can only take them so often. Eventually you have to teach them to read if you really want to get the benefits of the library.
Of course.
So, and it's the same as I said before. It's, teaching a child a subject for the whole year.
Right.
I mean, just 6 weeks is not going to turn anyone into a musician.
Right.
And we'd
It's
be
not going to
foolish
transfer
think-
into their learning ability
It's
either. in
not.
6
It's
weeks.
not. And we talked about having great performance, even in cultural organizations that bring the finest musicians into the school. We
Right.
talked about MIT before and
Right.
math. You can bring someone from MIT into a school for 6 weeks, and at the end of the 6 weeks, you and I both know the child is not going to know math.
Right.
So we have to make a decision as educators. What is best for our children? What is best for the constituents? And at the end of the day, we really do need a well-rounded education. Children who are proficient readers, great mathematicians, lifelong learners, but also have a connection to this culture of the arts.
Right.
It's
Sure.
invaluable
Which is what
for
we
our
were
children.
starting to lose back in the 70s, and now
It
we're
is.
connecting again with education through music. You guys are so instrumental in getting that going.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
we found out, there is so much research. There is a wonderful website, menc.org.
Okay.
It is and America for the Arts. They are strong advocacy arts programs, and some of the statistics on there are just incredible. I know personally that you are a musician and you come from a family of many, many musicians.
Right.
And also as a doctor, how it translates into your profession.
Yes.
I was reading just this morning, because I know I was going to see you, that there are more students that enter medical school who have studied music than science.
That's a great...
Isn't that great? I know.
I love that.
I know. And you and I have talked about you getting together and jamming with colleagues, and they're all...
Right now
all
we're
done?
working with a doo-wop group with another doctor and a group of 4 optometrists and eye surgeons. So
I
it's
love it.
phenomenal.
And, am I saying that just because our children study music, they're going to become medical? No, but I find it very interesting that it really supports learning. And that's why education through music it has evolved. It is because we believe that it is part of a well-rounded education. And education through music, I can't say it enough, that we believe that every child should have access to a quality education, one that includes the arts. It is kind of a mantra that we keep saying over and over and over again.
So how do you choose? How does the school choose? How do you partner with the school? How does that all come about? Do I call education through music and say we'd like to be part of your program? Or how would I? And then how do you decide which schools are appropriate to partner with you?
Well, I think it's all right. Some schools do call us. We haven't spent a great deal of time on marketing our program. Maybe that's almost detrimental to us, but we spent a great deal of time on the quality of the product, and we've been growing slowly. I think serving 6,000 children and 8,000 is, nothing to laugh about. But schools do sometimes call us, and sometimes it's word of mouth. The key ingredient, and it's always been, it's the leadership of the school. A principal who really does want to provide their child with music education as part of the core environment. That is absolutely and essential. So we interview the principal. We meet with them, and a lot of principals think it's politically correct to have music in, but education through music is not, as I said, an outreach program. We just don't provide that little concert experience or work with a few teachers on providing certain classes an opportunity to study the arts for X amount of weeks. It really is an opportunity for the principal to reform the school and embrace the entire school. So we work with the parents of the school. We work with the entire school community.
How have you found the parents' reaction to all this? It has to be
They
tremendous.
have been very, very supportive. Unfortunately in the inner city, many of the parents struggle to give their children what they didn't have in their life. And we have found in our school that very often the inner city parents who are working very hard don't have a chance to go to the school. And when they do, it's only because the child is in trouble. There's a problem. It has changed in schools that have a strong music component because the children are performing. They are excited about coming to school. It must be very exciting. Well, one of the parents said to me, it's very interesting how this has evolved. We sit at the table, we try to have dinner together as a family, which is something we all struggle with as family because our lives are so crazy. But at the table, it has always been, I hate school, I don't want to go. 2, I have music, so I have to go to school tomorrow.
Oh, isn't that great?
It's very, very different. And we've seen this over and over, some of our focus groups, a lot with our principals and the feedback they've given us. But it is the leadership of the school, and we identify schools because of that. And sometimes we have to pull out. So it is expensive. It's not. I shouldn't even say it's expensive. It's expensive for a school that has to make these decisions about do they add more math programs or do they add music education. They can't have both. They have to make decisions. But we do provide a lot of the funding initially. We do. We do extensive fundraising. We have wonderful corporate partners. Our money comes from the government. It comes from individuals. It comes from foundations and corporations. From some of our fundraising events that we are
having a great one coming up May 8th,
We are May 8th. We're having a wonderful event coming up in the city, and we are excited about that. It does generate additional income, so we will take on additional partnerships next year. But there is a collaborative partnership. Education through Music provides some of the funding. The school provides some of the funding. Parents' organizations provide some of the funding. But again, it is to jumpstart the program, but and hopefully that will be sustained by the school board.
Okay, and you hoping maybe Joshua Bell. Tell me about Joshua Bell.
Yeah, well, some of our schools part of I'll take one step back for that.
Please.
Part of the designing of the program is putting in disciplines that are really appropriate for the school.
Right.
So we have a school in the one that Joshua Bell just came for, the Grammy award-winning Grammy artist violinist.
Right.
He came to the school because we designed a program where every child, it's a K through 5 program, there are about 900 children at PS 68 in the Bronx, in the Baychester area.
Yes.
Every child in K1 and 2 studies general music and keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
Every child in 3, 4, and 5 is on a string instrument, including our special ed populations, which is very interesting.
Which is one thing I just want to just divert for a moment, Kathy.
Mm-hmm.
This program is 90% for underprivileged children.
Yeah, most of our children are the statistics are high. It's anywhere between 80 and 90% of our schools have free and reduced lunch programs.
Right, okay.
And they are schools at risk.
Another 10-15% are disabled. So
that's right, yes.
I mean, these are the kinds of...
We do have large special ed populations and a variety of degree, and one of the things we do in that plan is to provide a music therapist for children who cannot function within a regular general music classroom. So we provide music opportunities so they can also listen to music, and they develop their motor skills in singing and clapping out rhythms and moving and dancing. So it's absolutely important that every child is served according to their needs.
Gotcha. Okay, I just want
I
wanted to ask you that before.
No, it's important. But in this school where we have the strong violin program, Joshua Bell is a very dear friend of the organization. He's on our advisory board, and every time he's in New York, he travels all over the world. And, he just won the Avery Fisher Award, so he has come to the school, and he doesn't spend 5 minutes. He goes to every single classroom. He plays with the children. He performs with them. He plays sections of his new CD that he has out, and he also Voice of the Violin, and he also is working. Does a little parts of the red violin, and they're just in awe. He has always said to me, he says it's always amazing for him when he leaves the school that he wishes these were the same audiences that he would have in orchestras around the world. They're absolutely mesmerized by him. Sure. They know how to act as an audience because that's one of the skills they're taught, audience behavior. It's key to the structure of a good classroom, as well as learning music.
Sure, and I'm sure he gets a lot out of what he's doing to help your program.
I mean,
as we all do when you help a child.
Yeah, and it is. And at the end of the day, Louis, it's about the child. It's always, for education through music, it's always about the child. What's going to happen at the end of the day? Will the child be a great reader, be a lifelong learner, and a good person? That's what we hope the schools to achieve. We don't come in with our own agenda in a school. We come in to support the mission and vision of the school. And good principals and parents should have that concern when they sit at their school boards, when they are involved at parent meetings. They should see that the children have access to a well-rounded education. They should ensure that the general development of the child is absolutely the health benefits for the child. Children who have great self-esteem, children who feel good about themselves are going to achieve better. It's the child who is unsuccessful in school. It just is such a terrible thing to see that child moping around and their shoulders down and their eyes are down and their head is not up.
The whole
and
body language just says it all.
Aside from teaching wonderful collaborative school in business, I mean, in business we work with teams, and we hope that our teams are efficient and they how to work with each other. What better way than to work in an orchestra, to work in a chorus? I mean, talk about collaboration teams. A great opportunity for children.
Take that out into the business world.
Exactly.
You're way ahead of the game.
Yeah, there you go. More transferable skills, as we talked about.
That's right. There you go. Perfect. And what's new, Kathy? I know the school is now expanding across the country. You're now in East and West L.A. I mean, this program is growing.
I've had an opportunity to speak across the country. I've spoken at the Kennedy Center. I've spoken in Mississippi Arts. I've spoken in California. I've spoken in St. Louis. And every time I leave people and they hear about the opportunities that education through music can provide, or how it can support school reform, they really want to know more. But there's no way that a New York organization could manage a program, thousands of miles away. So we started a franchise. We have Education Through Music LA.
Okay.
It is just up and running. There's a wonderful board of directors. The executive director was a gal who worked for us.
Oh, great.
She is a violinist. She is now in 3 schools, and it has taken off. And We have started consulting with 7 schools in the Bay Area, and hopefully that will be ETM Bay Area someday.
That's great.
It has
Right. I
expanded.
mean, you're going to spread out to the United States soon.
It could be,
who
yeah.
knows?
Who
We're
knows?
going.
As long
And
as
some
it
of
helps the
new
children.
programs- That's right, as long as it helps. And the new program with percussion now, you've added, I mean, you never had percussion, now we're adding
Yeah, we have.
percussion.
I mean, we serve a lot of parochial schools as well as our public partnerships, and they do go up to grades 7 and 8. And
Right.
it's very hard to just introduce music for the first time to
Right.
these emerging adults.
Sure.
Traditionally, they don't want to just sit in a choir and sing.
Right.
That's just not an interest to them. Some may, but music is not just for the some, it is
Right.
for every child. So we found out that both guitar and percussion instruments are a great way to involve them.
Right.
So they get drumsticks, they get drum pads, they are tapping out rhythm patterns, they are really getting involved, composing music. Technology has become a big thing in
Right.
music education. So really designing a program that keeps up with the mission of the school,
Sure.
that meets the needs of these emerging adults, that is age appropriate, that provides a variety of experiences where the children can get involved in music in a variety of ways, is what really good education is about. At the end of the day, it's all about the child.
All about the child.
Yeah.
I mean, this picture just says it all, doesn't it?
Doesn't
I
it?
mean,
Yeah,
really,
it says
it's
it
great.
really does.
These kids are...
So I love, Mozart is for math, Schubert is for Shakespeare, and the Beatles for biology.
I love it.
I know.
Totally.
And it just proves that there is a variety of repertoire in our schools. It's
Right.
not only classical music, although our children do study classical music.
Yep.
It is not something that they may not have in their life, but
Right.
we
Hey,
want
it's
to
a great
expose them,
introduction.
expand their frame of reference, give them as many opportunities to learn in many ways that they can learn.
Right.
They're our future.
Kathy, it was so great having you.
It was my pleasure.
It was such
Thank
a
you.
pleasure. Thanks for coming.
You're very
If
welcome.
you have any questions for Kathy or education through music, you can go onto their website, or you can email Kathy, and she'll be very happy to answer any question that you may have. And we look forward to seeing you on the next show. Thank you for being so attentive.
Thank you.
Kathy.